On behalf of Chief Executive Women, I'd like to acknowledge that we are recording on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land upon which we learn, work, create, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
Driving the equality agenda.
Driving the equality agenda.
Driving the equality agenda.
Are we there yet?
Hello, and here we are again on Driving the Equality Agenda, a podcast where I talk with exceptional leaders to help us explore what's holding us back in our journey towards true gender equality. I'm Anne Burns, and I'm extremely passionate about this topic, and we'll be developing conversations to give women leaders skills and knowledge that help empower them. For me and Chief Executive Women, it all starts with women leaders enabling women leaders. We will be exploring topics such as cognition, resilience, and much, much more. So if you're looking to be inspired or indeed understand what it takes to be a great leader, you're going to love this. Wow, what a great episode with Annie McCubbin, acclaimed author of her book, Why Smart Women Make Bad Decisions. I really enjoyed this episode as she unpacks with a great deal of humour the serious topics of cognition and composure. I particularly enjoyed the debunking of magical thinking and why it makes no sense to trust our gut and our instincts in making great decisions as women leaders. The marvellous Annie McCubbin. It's so nice to see you. We see quite a lot of each other because we're partners on Chief Executive Women's Leaders Programme.
Yes, we are.
And we love our time together. It is my absolute pleasure to host you today on Driving the Equality Agenda.
Am I like the marvellous Mrs. Maisel?
You are better than the marvellous Mrs. Maisel.
I've got the Jewish thing. I have got the Jewish thing. Okay.
So tell me, Annie, you are a very acclaimed author with your book, which we're going to talk about.
Thank you.
You're also an actor of many descriptions, Shakespearean, TV, but you're also, I love this description of you the best.
Oh, what is it?
Corporate dramatist.
Yeah.
So my question is...
Yeah, what is that?
Who the hell is Annie McCubbin?
Can I just say at this juncture that corporate dramatist was not my idea? That's my partner. That's David. He loves all that. He's like, we're now corporate dramatists. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is. I guess it's taking principles from the theatre and our general acting training and then translating them into the corporate sector, because we worked out at some point that characters, whether you're playing it on film or television or the theatre, when they resonate with an audience, it's because there's something about it that's specific and real, and they're communicating their message well. And then we worked out at some point that, of course, that's why it resonates. It's because that's people.
I just love the idea of you going to a barbecue and somebody saying to you, and what do you do, Annie? And you say, I'm a corporate dramatist.
I'm a corporate dramatist.
Tell us about how you came from the theatre into what you do today with your company that you co-founded with your partner, David, Koo, which is all about communication.
Yeah.
Tell us, what was that journey like for you?
So we'd been, I'm married to an actor, so I don't know, sometime in our sort of early 30s, we'd been doing a lot of television and a lot of theatre, and we had children, and we went, oh, hang on, we'd like a car and a house. And acting, even, you go into the theatre and you do 8 shows a week, it's not a lot of money. Anyway, and then we were doing acting, we were teaching actors how to act. And of course the principles, it's what I was just saying, are the same. So we thought, we're teaching actors how to act. We could teach people how to communicate better. Because at the end of the day, it's all around specificity, of message and what you're actually trying to say. Generalities don't cut it. Generalities don't cut it in the theatre. It's what, you look at a soap opera, I'm not mentioning any, but those really bad ones where it's like, John, I don't know, I'm just really unhappy, those sort of, I won't mention any names, but those sort of soap operas have general approaches to acting and they don't cut it. So we thought, well, we'll get onto the specificity and we'll take it into the corporate sector and we'll take the principles of how to remain composed and how to have good cognition and how to communicate well. And so we took this from teaching actors to teaching people. And that's where we started.
And we love what we do together with you guys.
We do
on
love
the
it,
Leaders
don't we?
Program.
We really love
is,
the Leaders Program.
I think one of the funniest parts of the program is when you talk about cognition and composure. So let's dive into that a little bit.
Okay.
So let's talk about composure first and foremost. You and I have had hilarious moments of composure.
Yeah.
Would you like to share one of your stories about when you've lost composure and then when you've had to regain it in the spirit of the moment?
Yeah. So
you're trying to think which of the many stories.
Which is the one that's least embarrassing to me is what I'm trying to think. So there was the time quite recently. I'm not going to tell the one you want me to tell because the humiliation level is too high. But I'm going to tell this one that we were doing and I was during COVID. And we were doing an online training program for 900 people.
Wow.
We've got a studio set up downstairs. We've got cameras, we've got the whole thing, and audio. And we had the producer there and we had everything. So we're there and we've got the auto cue running. And I'd said to my daughter, do not let the Groodles downstairs. Don't let them downstairs. They must be locked up at all costs. Right. So I'm there and we've started in the auto
So this is Yo-Yo and Ryder.
This is Yo-Yo and Ryder. They're 2.5-year-old Groodles. One is a caramel colour and one is black. Anyway, my daughter, who is also a lawyer and was also trying to sort of be upstairs on a call, quite an important call. Anyway, she's lost focus of the Groodles and she's somehow, I don't know, they've got out. So in the studio, we've got a dog door and I'm here and I'm following the auto cue and I'm looking really nice like that. And then I hear this sound, which is the dog door. And I realised that one of the Groodles has got into the studio.
No.
And so the black one has come into the studio and deposited a disgusting half plastic ball on my lap.
Whilst you're presenting.
Whilst I'm trying to follow the auto cue and there's this thing and it's wet and it's disgusting and then she's pouring at my leg and she's pouring and of course I lost focus. I lost composure. I'm trying to push her off my lap. I'm trying to text Lily with my left hand saying come and get the dog and then I hear this chung chung and it's the second Groodle.
Oh no.
And he's come in and then he's trying to fight the first Groodle for the ball on my lap. So I just stopped. I was sweating. The auto cue's still running. It was really complicated. All I could think of 900 people. And then, so I'm texting Lily saying, come and get the dogs. And then I thought, stop. So I stopped. And I took a big breath. And I said to the 900 people, my 2 Groodles have just entered the room and they have deposited disgusting balls on my lap and they are now fighting for it and I'm going to have to take a moment. And so I took a moment and then it was actually really good because they all laughed and we all laughed and then David rolled the auto cue back and I think that that's the point, that it's okay. Failure is okay. It's what you do with it.
Yeah.
No one expects you to be on it all the time, right?
No one expects you to be perfect.
And there's something very human about imperfection.
Yeah.
And being able to go, I made a mistake. This didn't work because everyone goes, yeah, that's me too.
Yeah.
So I think this idea of that perfectionism that is expected of women, we have to toss it out the window because it's terrible.
Exactly right. So why do you think composure is so important for women leaders?
Because our thinking is flawed. So I think that if you're not composed, you are going to be run by your limbic system, especially under pressure. And there is this idea that women's instincts is on the ball. You know, we've got this gut feeling and it's not right. It's not right. Your instincts is just memory. So the problem is if you lose composure, you're going to start being run by your limbic system, the reactive part of your brain, and you're going to do things that feel right because we're habitualised around behaviour but actually won't give you the outcome that you want. So if I'm in a situation where I'm in a meeting with you and I find you a bit aggressive. I find not you. I don't find you aggressive.
That's good.
That's good. But if I'm finding you a bit intimidating, and what I should be doing is articulating my point of view, and I become nervous and I lose my composure, I'm probably going to fall into my instinctive response, which is I'm not going to say anything. It's not worth my while. And I think that's where women go often. Men might become more aggressive, but I think women lose their voice.
Yeah. Annie, there are so many funny things in your book. There is one scene in particular which I think resonates with so many women leaders that we talk to as part of the Leaders Programme. And it's when Kat, your main character, the protagonist, is in a meeting. She's done an amazing report, loads of insight. She's collected all her data. She knows her stuff inside and out, but she cannot speak up in this meeting. What is going on for her? How does she feel when that's happening? And then how does she overcome that? Do you want to share some of that critical thinking with us?
So Kat is being driven by her limbic system, by the part of the emotional part of the brain that is quicker off the mark and much more influential than we think. So even though the prefrontal cortex of her brain knows that her contribution is valid, this part of the brain, the fearful part of the brain, is driving her behaviour.
Right.
So, and that's across the board. We all do it. So instead of speaking, what she does is, using confirmation bias, she trawls back through all the times in her brain where she spoke and it was suboptimal. And then she buys into that, right? So she goes to speak and then somebody else speaks and she thinks, what's the point? And then she goes to speak and then James speaks and she thinks to herself, that was better than I would have said, what's the point? So she keeps hitting up against her own fears. The problem is that instinctually, we feel that these feelings that we have are accurate, and they're not.
Yeah.
They're driven by fear. The limbic system is full of fear and avoidance.
Yeah.
So she avoids it. And there's something almost comforting and familiar in the avoidance, right?
Yeah.
But then what happens is she gets to the end of the meeting and she's riven with fear, and then this woman she's a lawyer in the meeting that Kat didn't like. She didn't like her.
She kind of judged her.
She judged her. And that's the other thing. We make these very lightning quick judgments on other people. So she thought her hair was too perfect and she thought she was too thin. And when she spoke, people listened to her and she was really irritated by her. But right at the end of the meeting, this lawyer looks at her and says, hey, Kat, this report you put in I thought was really salient. Would you like to unpack it? And she did. And it went really well.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing, that women need to have each other's backs.
Absolutely.
Because we do know that with unconscious bias, a man's opinion is automatically going to be more picked up and listened to and validated than women's, which is really irritating and really sad.
Confirmation bias then is actually quite dangerous. I mean, I also get a sense, and you and I have had many chats about the dire consequences of magical thinking.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Confirmation
why
bias.
Is confirmation bias and magical thinking so dangerous, particularly for women leaders?
Okay, so confirmation bias is simply where you cherry pick the environment and only notice information that you already agree with.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So anything that you don't agree with that isn't already in your consciousness, you simply don't even see. So confirmation bias keeps us trapped in our bubble. Magical thinking. Magical thinking. Okay, so there's this story, was actually on one of the leaders programs. And this girl, she'd flown up from Melbourne to the Sydney program.
Yeah.
And I had just been talking about magical thinking. And she said, oh, my God, you won't believe what just happened to me. So she's in Melbourne and she's got to leave the office and get on the plane. Anyway, the meeting runs late. There's a massive storm hits. She goes downstairs. She finally gets a cab. She gets in the cab. The cab breaks down. Yep. She gets out of the cab and she gets into an Uber. She finds an Uber and then she's in this Uber and the traffic is just absolutely unbelievably bad, just shocking. So she's in the Uber and the traffic's bad and the storm's worsening and this thing in her head starts going, something's telling me not to get on the plane. Something is telling me this is dangerous. So she's there, she's crawling, she gets to the airport eventually, she gets to the desk and they say, your plane's cancelled. And she's like, phew, Phew. But then they say, it's okay, you can get on the 8 o'clock. So she's standing there at the desk and she thinks to herself, what if all these circumstances have prevailed upon me to give me the message that I'm going to die on that plane?
Oh, my gosh.
Well, yeah, right. Well, a lot of people have that, right?
Yeah.
The universe is telling me this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then she gets on the plane and guess what happened?
It arrives on time.
Exactly. And she gets and she does the program. She gets and does the program. And she said, I was convinced that was a signal. And I said, that's right, because that's magical thinking, right? We're not the centre of the universe.
Yeah.
Everything isn't orchestrated in order
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
There's millions and millions and millions of people out there. You know, the taxi and the storm and the plane are not about you.
Yeah.
And I think that magical thinking and things are meant to be, or bad things come in threes.
Oh, that's the other one.
Or, or any of that sort of thing where I wonder if this happened in the business in order to teach me a lesson.
Right.
Or I wonder if I should be in this relationship, if I should stay in this relationship because there's a lesson that I have to learn.
Or stay in this job because it's
Stay
meant to
in
be.
this job, it's meant to be.
Yeah.
And I think meant to be, bad things happen in threes. All of those sort of things, I think, really muddy the cognitive waters.
Yeah.
And if you want to just make a clear decision, take the magical thinking out.
Yeah.
Things just happen. Shit happens. Am I allowed to say shit?
I think you just did.
I just did. Naughty things happen. And you just have to, how am I going to deal with it, as opposed to why did this happen? Because why did this happen is muddying.
Annie, why is cognitive awareness so important for women leaders?
Because we have no clue what's actually driving us. I don't know why. It's just not top of everybody's agenda when we talk about leadership training. I don't understand. Because we are so flawed, we are so compulsive, we are so irrational, and we have no idea about it. Also, intelligence does not protect you from cognitive flaws. So most of the decisions are made in the limbic system of our brain, and then we post-rationalise it.
Yeah.
Yep. So, you know, if the limbic system's like Donald Trump, then the prefrontal cortex is like his poor, hapless press secretary trying to justify, you know, what latest mental thing he's said. So the thing is that because all these decisions are made in this old part of the brain and post-rationalised, if you're highly intelligent, which, let's face it, most women leaders are, all that means is that their post-rationalisations will feel more valid to themselves and to others.
Right.
So they're more capable of justifying it to themselves, and they sound more intelligent and valid to other people. But it's still, most of our behaviour, if you've got a feeling, a strong feeling, and you have behaved off the back of that feeling, without the intervention of a thought in the middle going, hang on, I wonder if that's going to take me in the direction that I want to go in.
Yeah.
Then then your brain is your behaviour is being led by your cognitive flaws. So confirmation bias, consistency bias, the halo effect, all of those things come into play all the time.
Yeah. So how can we learn as leaders? How can we learn to be more aware of our cognitive flaws?
Read my book. Yeah. That was pretty good,
Yeah, that
wasn't
was a
it?
good plug.
Thank you.
That was a
Thank you.
good plug.
So,
and your next book is coming out shortly
yes, it
as well.
is. It's about scamming ourselves and being scammed, and how easily we are influenced by lies and charm.
Wow.
How easily we are fooled by a charming personality.
Wow.
So, So, look, the only way to intervene in this process so that your thinking is pristine is to learn about cognitive biases.
Right.
And to entertain and to introduce the notion to yourself that that's what's driving your behaviour. And while we wait for structural changes, so that there's no longer just men running just about everything, while we wait for that to happen, the next thing we have to do, or the thing we can do right now, is start to be aware of the cognitive flaws in our thinking that rob us of our voices.
Right.
Because they do.
Yeah.
Because I can go to speak, and this part of my brain, the old part of my brain, is going to say there's no point, and we're going to lean into those biases, and it feels right.
Yeah.
So it's just saying to yourself, the fact that I have a really strong feeling about this is not actually relevant. It's just a feeling. Stop. Actually analyze your thinking with some ferocity and take your thinking to people that don't automatically agree with you.
Yeah.
Because, boy, are we in a bubble.
Yeah.
We're in a bubble on the internet, and we are in a bubble with our friends, and collusion is delicious, right? It's so
Absolutely.
lovely having someone agree with the way you think.
Yeah.
But it can just lead you further and further down a road you don't want to go down.
So, Annie, as I do with all of my guests,
Yes.
thinking about the bigger picture here, which is developing leadership, particularly for women leaders, what is your one for the road, your one piece of advice for leaders looking to develop cognition and composure, apart from reading your first and second book?
Thank you. Thank you. My piece of advice is drop authenticity, just drop it, and get a handle on your cognitive flaws. If you get a handle on your cognitive flaws, you're going to start making much better decisions in the business. You're going to be a better leader.
Yeah.
And you're going to make better decisions in your personal life and drop the magical thinking, which comes under the banner of get a handle on your thinking.
Yeah.
Because we haven't, and we should.
Well, as always, it is an absolute delight to talk to you. I always enjoy seeing you. We're very proud of the work we do together. At
We
Chief
are very
Executive
proud,
Women.
and thank you so much for having me on the program.
Yeah, and we look forward to more fun and games.
Yeah.
And more delight and humour with yourself and your partner, David.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely. A little hot, but lovely.
You've been listening to Driving the Equality Agenda, a podcast brought to you by Chief Executive Women. If you'd like to inquire about our Great Leaders programme, please connect with us on cw.org.au. And don't forget to use the hashtag Driving the Equality Agenda and follow us. We don't want you to miss a single episode on this great adventure. Just wanted to say thank you to our producer, Sarah Linton from Cobox. Thank you for listening to Driving the Equality Agenda.